And I'd always had a passion for health and fitness anyway. I thought, right, I want to do something where I can bring it all together, and that's how kind of FiTR came about, really. And we were chasing that money, and ultimately the money didn't come. Sometimes I feel a little bit scared of my decisions because I've not got somebody to challenge me. Everyone's on their phone now. No one really uses a desktop or anything like that. So it just felt, that's where we need to be.
On the draft, like you saying, oh, your player for me it was when LeBron James got taken. It's like, no, I know no one else.
I know no one else. So you just picked the whole Magic team because that was your
Yeah.
Turned out pretty well though, at the end of the day.
Yeah, now I know a lot more about basketball because I had to learn.
Had to follow it, had to learn. Yeah. Brilliant.
But anyway, welcome to another episode of Startup Dynamics, hosted by me, Jonas Urbanas, and as always, I'm joined by Jack Gerard, my dear colleague and employee of Orfi Active, and today we're joined also by Rhys Jones. Rhys is the director of Modulus recruitment agency, and also founder of FiTR, an app that's really hot right now solely because especially in today's climate, you're connecting people with the right coaches, the right trainers, without being restricted to any gyms or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
I think that's an absolutely brilliant idea. And I think the very first question that I really want to ask is not only why you started FiTR, because you started it quite a long time ago, like 3-4 years ago or something like that, right?
2.5 years ago, yeah.
But you're running those two companies alongside each other,
yeah,
right? I imagine that's really, really hard. Like, why did you decide to do that rather than completely just focus on one and just say, right, this is my full-time go-to thing, all or nothing? And
money. Very simply, money. We had to use Modulus as a vehicle to bootstrap FiTR, essentially.
And why did you decide not to go for angel funding, seed rounds, anything like that? Because today in startup, you'll see, founders not even starting if they don't get initial funding.
Yeah.
Which, I have my own thoughts on that, but I'm curious, why did you feel like you have to bootstrap it first and not go and seek funding?
I think we did, is the answer to that. And I think partly that was the downfall of the original founding team of FiTR. So my two original co-founders, Russ and Dave, are no longer with the business.
So you started 3 years ago with three of you?
Three of us, yeah.
Okay.
And then things happen in the startup journey, things happen in people's lives where you can't continue, essentially.
Right.
And it wasn't a bad thing. We didn't leave on bad terms or anything like that. We all still speak and we all still go to the pub and stuff like that. We have some good banter about the football. But yeah, just the way the journey happened, and it was all around the investor piece, essentially. So we did go and look for funding as well as bootstrapping through Modulus and through like an IT consultancy as well, to just put money into the business. But ultimately, I think we ended up spending too much time chasing investors and chasing the money to try and keep the business going. It is very time-consuming,
isn't it?
Rather than chasing customers,
right?
And chasing users. So I think that was that's a big lesson learned, definitely. But yeah, that's how that came about, and then just had to continue with Modulus because as well that was paying the bills.
Yeah, of course.
Had to do that. I've got a wife and 2 kids.
Right. So there's a lot to consider.
There's a lot to consider, definitely. And
so why was the fallout? So are you the sole founder right now?
Yes. Yeah.
You are, right. So there was 3 of you. Obviously spent a lot of time seeking investment. It might have not have been maybe first, why did you feel like you didn't get investment? What were the reasons? Was it like not being in front of the right people, not having the right pitch, not for it maybe not being the right time for that platform? What do you think was the reason?
I think there might, maybe a timing issue. Like you said, we were probably too early, whereas obviously now we're like you said, we're bang on trend for the market. Everyone thought, oh, the fitness space is really competitive. How are you going to compete against the gyms? It was all about the gym. That was one thing. The other thing was traction. People come back to you with this traction objection, and it's how do you quantify traction? How do you put a number on it? And you'd speak to one angel or VC, and they'd say, right, you need to. Some of them would be really prescriptive and say you need to get 1,000 users onto your platform before we'll even entertain a conversation. Right. Others, you'd have like an initial, maybe like a coffee with them or something. They'd say, go and prove traction. You come back again and go, right, we've got this many users. This is what's happening. Yeah, just go and prove that traction a bit more. And we were finding, particularly because we did go down to London a couple of times to speak to different people, but a lot of our investment conversations happened in the Manchester area. Yeah. And there's a very different dynamic to investment and lending money, and that whole ecosystem is very different.
Different how?
In Manchester, I think they're a little bit more cautious up here than they are down in London. I think the London investment scene is more mature as well. So they have a different attitude and outlook. Yeah. Down there, and obviously, there's plenty of stories in Manchester of businesses who've got funding from America as well. So, we looked a bit too local. I think that was probably another sort of not mistake, but another downside. Having said that, one of the real serious conversations we had was with somebody from down south, and that was ultimately, I think, the beginning of the end, that conversation with that particular investor. So they were very close to wanting to invest in FiTR. But they were ultimately interested in what like the end goal was, not the exit, but like what the direction of travel looked like for the roadmap in terms of the technology. And they were like, we really like this bit. Yeah. So scrap all what you've done basically and go and do that. And we said, well, we can do that, but obviously that needs funding, because if we're going to do that, that was something that was going to come in 2 years time or 18 months time, where we would have had some organic cash to fund that, plus maybe a follow-on round in terms of investment. But they said, no, go and do that. And we said, well, can you fund it? And they were like, well, no, go and build it first. And so it was start again, right, basically. So that's kind of where we got to. And we were chasing that money, and ultimately the money didn't come. Right. And I think the appetite from everybody then to continue on that path, the appetite was lost a little bit.
Why did you stick with it then? Like, why did you not all just went your separate ways, kind of accepted that? You can't even call it a failure, right?
Yeah.
Because you never really tested the market properly.
Yeah.
But what made you stick with it and you really see it through?
I really believed in the concept and the business, and it was myself and Russ who were there at the beginning. Then we brought Dave in as the third founder from a tech perspective. So, I believed in it from the very start. And ultimately I had another business that I could use as a vehicle to fund FiTR in that kind of bootstrap model as well. So it was a lot easier for me to continue on that path. I also really believed in what the first version of FiTR looked like as well, not what the investors were interested in. And don't get me wrong, I still see the direction of travel looking like it always did. Yeah. But I've still really believed in version one, if you like. Yeah. So again, it made it easier for me to say, well, no, I really believe in it. I'm gonna carry on with this blind faith in FiTR. But I think it's paid off, because a lot of people also believe in it, from a PT and coach point of view, from a user point of view, and from other people I've spoken to, they really believe in it as well. And people who've then come into the business, into the fold, they've backed it. So I think I was I was right to carry on and
Yeah.
do what I've done really. So,
Do you think?
So yeah.
Do you think if it hadn't have failed the first time, or the version 1 hadn't gone so well, then you would have had success now? Do you think you needed to have that kind of that setback in order for the product to do well?
Yeah, I think so, because, like I said before, I think the idea of it got lost a little bit in that kind of chasing down investment journey.
Yeah.
So the mentality is definitely switched to, let's chase down customers, let's chase down users, and let's be true to what FiTR is, rather than chasing down cash.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't have had the experience that I'd had, initially. So yeah, definitely did change.
Yeah.
The mindset for sure.
So I think, go on.
No, it's just that, that kind of really resonates with me, because I was always a believer that you don't need funding first, you need a customer first.
Yeah.
And it does seem like, when you're chasing funding, it is so time consuming. I experienced it a couple of times, including this year, due to COVID. Not only like the amount of time it takes to get money, but like the whole preparation, the conversations, you need to go through so many, unless you've built this massive reputation, credibility and everything like that, that, you just forget it to really focus on your product and your customer. And that's when the follow-up happens. So do you feel like, because as you said, like you went through that process, you completely fully focused on the product, on the customer right now, to prove the product, prove the concept, and then feel like the funding will come a lot easier?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's another thing that you can chalk off that you're not going to get an objection against. However, there are other objections now that have come across as, with being a sole founder. But definitely that objection of traction is kind of, taken away now, because the model has been proved, and, you can, you can say, well, we've done that now.
Do you prefer being a sole founder?
Yes and no. I'm a risk taker because, well, I think it comes with the territory of having two businesses and, breaking away. And my family were all like worked in public sector and very safe. And I'm like the black sheep of the family, absolutely. But, I'm a risk taker. But on the flip side of that, I'm someone that like does a lot of research, even like to the sad stuff. Like if I'm going to buy a television, like I'll be researching which is the best TV and is it this or is it that and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very considered when I make my decisions as well. So that when I do make a decision, I feel like, right, I've made the most informed decision that I can, and then bang, I'll follow that through with like loads of conviction. And I would do that as well with being in it, in a startup team and, with two of the founders. But there would be, clashes of minds really, and decisions would then be done by committee almost, where it was, I'd really believe and back my own idea because I believed in the process that I went through to get to the decision that I thought was right.
Yeah.
But then you'd have people come in and it would. But then I do miss that because I miss that that creativity that it brings, and people go, well, have you thought about this? And I'll go, do you know what? No, I was just thinking in my own mind, and it really challenges you to think differently, and maybe you weren't right, and sometimes because I don't have that anymore, sometimes I feel a little bit scared of my decisions because I've not got somebody to challenge me. But on the other side, it allows me to make decisions a lot quicker as well and move things on faster rather than going, what do you think about this? And we go, all right, we'll have to have a meeting about that. But so-and-so's not free until tomorrow, and then it kicks it on another day, and it's just made everything a little bit slower.
How did you find your initial co-founders? Were you friends before? Like, how did you come together?
So yeah, Russ and I, we met at university, and then we'd worked together, and then we just knew each other. We'd worked at Total Fitness together. I was out in the clubs, Russ was working at the head office. So yeah, we'd had a kind of a uni background. We had mutual friends at uni as well. We were on the same course, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we knew each other. And then Dave, I knew through my recruitment network, but Russ also knew him through a personal network as well. So it was kind of a perfect. I was like, well, yeah, I know him from a work point of view, and I know he's credible. You know him from a personal point of view, and you know he's a good guy. So, and and Dave was very entrepreneurial as well. He'd had a business that he'd exited from before, so he'd been through a bit of a journey as well. So yeah, very credible from that point of view. Great from a tech point of view, and yeah, it just seemed to work. And then that sort of leads into what the other objections are now when talking to potential like angels or potential investors, is that now I don't have that team around the business. So that was never an objection before. People go, I see the team, I understand why you do what you do. But, we were a well thought of and well kind of respected team, and yeah, that's now come away. So yeah, definitely a different, like I said, different dynamic when or different objections to face when you're talking about funding.
But when you're talking about co-found, do you have many employees?
So for Modulus, we have 3 employees, and they're all like kind of associate directors within the business.
Yeah.
And then with FiTR, we're actually partnered with a business in Manchester called the Startup Factory, who have a tech team, and they act as like the, a sort of a CTO as a service almost, if you like. So yeah, they would manage the all the tech roadmap, manage the team, and then we ultimately leverage that resource that they have within their business as well.
So I can't help but think that, say for you, Jonas, for example, if you had a co-founder, would you be as asking for your employees for input, and would that team dynamic be there if there were 1 or 2 of the co-founders and then the employees?
Probably less.
Yeah.
For the exact reasons you just said, to have somebody you trust to bounce ideas off and have some really tough conversations, to have somebody really challenge you, that's one of the biggest benefits of having a co-founder for me. And, being a sole founder, when I'm doing the hiring and recruiting of the team, that's something I take into consideration. Like, is that person kind of brave enough? Is that person kind of, going to be experimental enough to really get into my face and really challenge me? There's no real hierarchy in Orfi Active in that sense. Yes, the bullet stops with me, and the final decision will be mine. But until I get to that, everybody will be, even if it's not on the same page, we're going to have those tough conversations, and we'll know exactly why that decision was made. Yes, if I had a co-founder, probably those toughest decisions would be made behind closed doors. But at the same time, I can't help but think sometimes that that's an additional burden on employees, and that might be something that an employee would want. So you have to be really careful and select with that, I think.
I think that obviously comes down to like hiring process then as well. When you're bringing these people into the business, you have to be really clear with them, don't you, in terms of managing their expectations. This is what it's going to be like to work here. Are you going to be comfortable if I'm going to come to you and say, pitch me an idea, or what do you think of this? And are they confident? Are they comfortable with that? I guess you have to be on board with, right, do I think this person's got enough about them? Are they, they're not just a coder that's going to sit there with their headphones on and their funky glasses so they don't get glare off the screen. Are they someone that's actually going to come with, all the additional stuff as well, that, like you say, they can be creative and they can be confident and put ideas forward, and they can do all that other stuff, because that's what you need out of people in a startup. That's what you need out of people. I was going to say, you do need doers as well. You definitely do need doers, because obviously time is precious and time is money, and money only lasts so long in a startup world. So you definitely need people to smash through and get on with the work. But you also need those people who can be creative and bring more to the party.
Starting a tech startup when you personally, you're not a tech founder, neither am I.
No, I'm not a tech founder.
Was that a hard decision to make? Why did you decide that an app is the way to go for your idea, knowing that you'll need to either outsource or find co-founders that will actually help you build the product, rather than knowing that you're going to sit down and build the product yourself?
Yeah. So I've always worked in IT recruitment. When I've worked in the recruitment industry, it's always been IT recruitment and technical recruitment. Before that, I was in the fitness industry and worked in sales and management in the fitness industry. So I kind of fell into recruitment really, but being around that tech speak and tech chat and working with some really cool companies as well to recruit for them, it was just super interesting, and I kind of got a little bit hooked really. You know, you'd go to client meetings, and there's like one company worked with in Bolton, and it just looked like something from James Bond, you know what I mean? It was like, you know, like screens everywhere, and you'd go into like this airlock door, and you're like, this is super, you know, it's like the Matrix or you know, and then just different companies going through, you know, being part of their startup journey as well, because we'd recruit for them. It just felt like a really cool place to be, and yeah, I just enjoyed that. And I'd always thought I wanted to do. I was getting to a point with the recruitment stuff that I thought it was just getting a little bit monotonous, a bit samey, and there was, you know, there wasn't much happening in the recruitment industry that was like really dynamic, and you could think, oh, you could really see a lot of change happening, and therefore I need to keep up with the pace of change. It was just the same old stuff. So it was just, you know, and it was this, every day you're in recruitment, it's just a race versus other agencies, because it's, you know, it's such a massive market. So I kind of wanted to break away from that, and I'd always had a passion for health and fitness anyway. And I thought, right, I want to do something where I can bring it all together, and that's how kind of FiTR came about really. You know, FiTR actually started out life as a conversation, as like a recruitment platform for the fitness industry, more of like a B2B offering. But then obviously it quickly evolved, you know, over a course of a conversation in the pub, where you go, no, this needs to be a B2C offering, go into consumer, because there's just a much bigger addressable market there. So
I guess the reason I kind of asked that is because app development, well, turning your idea into an app is probably one of the most difficult things of any others. Like, because if you're starting a service-based agency, if it's more kind of transactional, you're actually selling like a physical product or something like that, that is somewhat easier. Whereas an app, it's so hard to develop it, it's so hard to get it to the market, there's so many variables that are in there, and when you're not a tech founder yourself, you're adding that additional risk and lack of flexibility, right? And that's I guess, you know, I know you're a risk taker, right? The initial thing was, you know, why wasn't an app? Why did not decide to say, right, you know, let's start with, I don't know, like a consultation service, and then kind of lead into kind of like a service-based thing? Why was an app the go-to solution for that?
I think we thought we had to offer something slightly new and innovative, excuse me, get my teeth in, and different. Because there are other services out there in the fitness industry. It just felt like this was something that was going to, you know, break on again. And that's why I decided to go. And you know, everyone's on their phone now. No one really uses a desktop or anything like that. So it just felt, you know, that's where we need to be.
Yeah.
So that you know, that's why we decided to go down that route really.
And so you founded an agency firm, a recruitment agency firm, and a tech startup.
Yeah.
Completely different type of businesses.
Absolutely.
What are if you had to point out, like, what are the key differences and maybe challenges that you had to overcome in each?
Managing expectation, my own expectation in the tech startup world has been a challenge and been a lot harder versus the recruitment agency side of things, because I've worked in recruitment for 10 odd years. I know everything about that industry. I know how the mechanics work.
Yeah.
I understand what the processes are that you need to go through to get to where you want to be. Whereas, you know, as much as I've seen some of that from working in the IT and tech recruitment industry, and like I said, being in and around clients and seeing that journey and that story, ultimately I had to learn all of that when coming into a tech startup. and understanding how, the tech guys might work, and you go, why hasn't this been finished? It's 6 o'clock, and like, hardly anything's been achieved today. And they go, my brain turns on at 2 o'clock in the morning, but then you'd come in at 8 o'clock the next day, and it would, what you thought should have been done by 6 o'clock the night, but it's still done then. So it's just, the way people work differently, because in recruitment you tend to have a very stereotypical type of personality. We all tend to be very, very samey. And like I said before, it's competitive, it's fast paced, and everyone's like in this race all the time. So, you're working fast all day.
Yeah.
Whereas in tech, it can feel very, very slow, and then it will speed up. And there's not this kind of. It definitely goes like that in terms of the pace. Whereas in recruitment, it's just like 100 mile an hour all the time. So
did that recruitment personality help you at all when you were becoming a startup founder? Because to me, a recruitment personality is quite confident. You can sell anything, very sure of themselves. Did that help you at the kind of the early stage?
I think so, yeah. In a couple of areas really, so we actually brought in a couple of developers initially into FiTR, and it definitely helped in terms of selling them the dream of coming into work for our startup versus another startup or versus another business, because we were really really confident in the idea and the product that we wanted to put out there, and really confident in ourselves as a team as well. So I think those personality traits definitely helped with that side of things. And then also speaking to investors, and also like trying to break into that tech ecosystem as well. We're the new kids on the block, and we were going to events and stuff like that, rather than being really sort of shy, retiring types. Being confident and being able to just get out there and speak to people and become part of the fabric of what's going on in.
I only say that 'cause before I applied for the job here, I was applying for
I just wanted to say that.
companies.
Oh, really?
And there's like the interviews I went to was two complete opposite. With the recruitment, it's more how can you sell like role plays of being on the phone, making sure you get that stuff. I think I had to sell a
pen.
Yeah, no, I had to sell a season ticket to Manchester United to someone, and then I come into the interview with Jonas, and he's asking me kind of like, what's like your dream in 5 years, and that type of, and more like trying to get to know my mindset rather than what skills I already have.
Yeah,
that type of thing is very different.
Do you think one of the reasons you chose to join a startup was based on your personality, and that you felt like it fits more than a recruiter's personality?
I just think at the stage I was at, I was open to my personality going one of two ways. Like, I think if I was working in a recruitment company for a year, I would be quite outspoken and confident, and like, well, not that I'm not confident now, but I'd be a lot more. Whereas working for a startup for a year, I have got more of that creative side, kind of adaptability to do lots of different jobs at the same time.
And that's interesting, because I think as founders and as company owners, like, we have this responsibility, especially with when you're employing young people, to understand exactly that you're going to be shaping the person's personality, views, values, as well as obviously they're going to bring their own. But I think that's a very interesting point. Like, if you were working in recruitment for a year, you'd probably be a completely different Jack than he is right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when it comes to creating kind of company culture, and that would be interesting to see as well your point of view, because I imagine being a recruiter definitely helps, in hiring and understanding what you need from people when you do it for FiTR.
Yeah.
What kind of company culture do you try to instill, and like what kind of people are you looking for something like FiTR in comparison to when you do recruitment for other companies? Is there like massive differences, because it's still all mostly IT? What are the key things that you look for when placing the right person, and also employing the right person for yourself?
So when employing the right person for myself, I would like ask myself the same questions that I would, ask a potential client, what they are.
Give me a couple examples. What would be those questions?
That's a really good question. I mean, because obviously I've recruited for FiTR, and recruitment policy there, even when we're bringing PTs onto the platform as well, we recruit on behaviours and values. Obviously they need to have like a level of aptitude and, the skill set. It's very easy to ascertain whether a PT can do that, because we will do a assessment day with them and we'll put them through a little bit like you with recruitment, put them through a scenario, like a role play. And have they got their certificates? So yeah, have you got your level 3, tick, 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 boxes tick. So it's very easy to ascertain whether they can, do the job from a skills perspective. But because they're out there representing the brand, it's all about their behaviour, their attitudes, their values, what they want to achieve in terms of their career as well. So do they fit like the FiTR model? And then that would also translate into the internal team as well, because that flows throughout the whole business. So yeah, it's definitely a values-based business, but also like trying to bring some diversity to it as well. So, we were 3 white guys from the Northwest when we started FiTR. So I had to look at bringing some different ideas in, from different cultures, different backgrounds, people who had come from a corporate business and people who had come from a startup business as well. So, they bring different ideas with them in terms of, structure and best practice, keep you on the straight and narrow rather than just running off down this, like, oh, we'll just hack something together kind of idea. So, yeah, because I would recruit that way for FiTR, that's how I'd ask the questions really from a recruitment point of view when speaking to clients, kind of similar questions really. What's the right type of person that's going to fit into your business? Because
do they know? Like if you've asked them what's the type of person you need, would they be very spot on, X, Y, Z, this is what I need?
What you tend to find is that they will replicate whoever the best person is in their business. They'll say, right, Jack is the best developer that I've got in my team, so I need two more Jacks.
Right.
And they would describe that person. So maybe sometimes, it depends how good a relationship you have with them. So if it's a company you've been working with for years, you might say, well, if you can be that candid with them, you can say, right, well, should we be looking to bring some women into the team? Should we be looking to bring some older heads into the team rather than, guys who are fresh?
How much of a factor that is? Because personally, and there's no right or wrong, I guess, but for me, it's whoever is the right fit. Like I never go, right, I definitely need a female right now, or I definitely need this type of ethnicity, whatever it may be. I just need the best person for the job, whoever that is. Yeah. And whatever ends up being, right?
Yeah.
How important have you seen it being of, companies coming to you and saying, oh, actually, we really need to have, say, a female developer because she will bring in a different perspective to the same solution or something like that just because of that?
Yeah. I think maybe one of the reasons why I think like that more so now than perhaps I did like in my early days of my recruitment career is because of what I said before about not having co-founders around me to challenge me. And I think if you just get a room full of the same people, you're only going to get a very similar answer and a very similar outlook. So I think you kind of need to be honest with yourself and think, right, let's shake it up a bit. And, otherwise it's just going to be very samey. Yeah. I can't think of another word to describe it really.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So to bring a different voice, to bring a different outlook, to bring someone from a different country in that's, from a different type of business.
A lot of our listeners are also people that are now in a corporate job, a normal 9 to 5, and they're either thinking of starting their own thing or joining a startup. And you've been an employee and literally at some point just went, you know what, F that, I'm going to do my own agency, and then, oh, by the way, I'm also going to do my own startup in tech.
Yeah.
What went through your mind? What were the triggers to do that? Like, what made you to, make the switch?
So, to start off with my own recruitment business, I'd worked for one of the big IT recruitment firms in the country. And then I left there and went to a startup recruitment firm, really. I think they'd been operating for 12 months just before I got there. So I saw a different dynamic with that as a business. And I was there for nearly 4 years. And through that period, there were highs and lows in that business, and you could see, they tried to grow and then it wouldn't quite work, and then they'd scale back and then we'd try and go again. And I was promised a few things. It's the classic story. I hear this all the time when I go, why do you want to leave? And they go, I've been promised this and they've not done it for me, so I want to move to somewhere else. And that's what happened with me. I was growing my own team, and there were, triggers and milestones that if you achieve this and you achieve that, we'll do this and we'll do the other. And the goalpost would be moved, or they'd, be smashed down altogether. Like, no, we can't do that because, Joe Bloggs, who's in the team, isn't contributing, isn't pulling their weight. So, you're having to prop them up. And then, I got to a point where I was like really frustrated and a bit fed up with that. And I thought, I'm in a small boutique recruitment firm. We don't really have a massive brand. It's not like I was working for Hayes or Michael Page or Adecco or something like that, where, you're working with every, Fortune 500 company under the sun. And, you've got this massive brand. Didn't have any of that. So I was like, I'm having to generate this business and what I'm doing myself. So I made a few phone calls and I was like, if I want this, this and this, how much is it going to cost me? I figured out how much I'd need every month to start a business. And I thought, right, I'm gonna do it.
Give me a bit more detail in that. Yeah. So, because that's, I think, a very important point in that decision process, right? Because I think this is where a lot of people fall off. And they get scared when they do see what it actually takes to do your own thing.
Yeah.
So what kind of calculations, what kind of considerations, did you have kids at that point or a wife?
Yeah.
So a lot of things, a lot of risk, involved. What was the process and what were your, I guess, triggers to say, right, if that's the end result, I'll actually take the leap?
Yeah. So the biggest things to consider was like, what do I need to do my job? So, at that point in recruitment, it was like, I need a LinkedIn recruiter license. I need a phone line. I need, to be able to advertise on Read and CV Library and that sort of stuff. So I need those services, really.
And understanding how much that would cost.
How much that would cost, yeah, absolutely. Obviously doing permanent recruitment as well, there's like a lag time, there's a lead time for getting paid. So obviously the vast majority of the recruitment industry is all done on like a contingency based model. So you're doing a lot of work for free up front. You don't get paid until the guy or the girl starts in their job. So, it was understanding, right, I need 3 months money in the bank before, to survive, A, at home, and B, in the business, because, we're not going to be generating any cash because of those usual lead-in types of stuff. So, it might be 2 to 3 weeks for a hiring process. That person then has to give 4 weeks notice typically. That's when so you're already 7 weeks in. That person then has to start. That's when you send the invoice out. So then you've got another 30 days before the invoice gets paid.
Yeah.
And then typically there's like a rebate period. So, right, if they don't work out within the next 8 weeks, so you've got another 4 weeks then again. So you're already kind of, 12 weeks before the money becomes your money and not.
And that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, that's the best case. Well, I don't know, you might have, we've done recruitment processes that have turned around in 48 hours, you know what I mean? And someone might be on 14-day payment terms and a whatever. But atypical would be, you're not realising that cash for 12 weeks. So we needed at least 12 weeks money in the bank before that money started to
Were
become
those
our own.
savings?
So savings, and took a bank loan as well, and used the money from the loan to pay back the loan every month.
Right.
So if the payment was 250 quid a month or whatever it was
Yeah.
like some of that money from the loan was actually going back to paying itself back. But yeah, savings and a bank loan, that's how I was
And
started.
what was the conversation like with the wife when you made that decision?
She was actually really excited. She probably looked back and gone, what a stupid decision that was. Because like life was good then.
Yeah.
You know, driving around in your nice BMW car and and everything else. But yeah, she was really excited, really supportive, and she's brilliant.
I think that's the thing though. There's so many employees out there that must want to start their own thing.
Yeah.
But they don't actually go through the thought process that you've just taken us through.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a mindset that, because like, I from speaking to Jonas, my thinking is that I don't have an idea to start like my own thing, so I don't think I'll ever be a founder. But maybe I do have that kind of mindset within me where it's like taking the steps to make it happen. Is that kind of an individual trait that you have, or do you think most people actually do have it within them?
I think if you're bright enough, you definitely have it within you. To me, it doesn't seem like a difficult concept to, right, this is what I really need to think through. And going back to what I said before about how I look at everything before I definitely commit to a decision, so for me, it was like researching the telly scenario again. It was, this is what I need. But I think it was made a little bit easier for me versus maybe people who worked for Hayes, for example, for them to break away because, yes, they might be fantastic at their job, but they don't know what they're going to be like when they just go, it's Joe Bloggs calling from Joe Bloggs Recruitment, not Joe Bloggs calling from Hayes. Whereas, I was calling from, a firm that nobody had heard of. So I had no brand behind me originally. So, that was another thing that gave me the confidence to think, well, do you know what, I'm doing it anyway. And I haven't got all this, big marketing machine and big brand behind me, generating it all.
So that's interesting because you did, just completely move from an employee to having your own agency because you knew, right, this is how much money I need.
Yeah.
And after I make my first deal, this is how much money I'm going to bring in, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with FiTR, you use your recruitment firm to actually,
fund
FiTR because there's not this clear revenue model immediately.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more, flexible and I guess risky as to what it might happen, which is like a very common thing with tech startups. How much planning did you do for FiTR and kind of what were your projections for that? And I guess that leads into, is your goal to actually go completely full time to FiTR when the time is right?
Yeah, so the monetization model for FiTR is like a commission-based model. So we take a commission on all the sessions that are put through the platform. So obviously our, the money that we take is very small. The lion's share of any revenue that's generated goes to the PT, to the coach. And the only way you're ever going to make loads of money out of FiTR is when it scales massively. If you were just going to be really organic with it and take the money from the sales. But obviously there's a different strategy, isn't there, with a tech startup? There's a different end game with it in terms of like an exit strategy, and obviously the funding journey as well. That whole journey is completely different to a recruitment startup where you eat what you kill.
But do you have like a point where, right, we've got this amount of recurring commissions and subscriptions, through FiTR, and at this point, I will leave recruitment and go full on for FiTR, or do you always see juggling the both businesses together?
Yeah, definitely 100% all in on FiTR. That's the ultimate goal. Just because that's absolutely where the passion lies, and it is very difficult to sometimes to motivate yourself for the recruitment side of things. And if any of my clients listen to this, they'll be horrified. But yeah, sometimes it's difficult to motivate yourself for that because of just how passionate I am about FiTR. And sometimes it's really disheartening when you think, I really need to do this, but I've also got to, I've got to show up and do a good job here. It's really tricky. So if we can not do that and just be 110% focused on one thing, then that's ultimately going to make you more successful as well, because you're not spread so thin.
So how do you manage your time at the moment? Is it literally 50-50 between the two? Because it seems like you've got the passion for one, but the money coming in from the other.
Yeah.
So does that lean your time more to one than the other?
You have to be really disciplined and very structured with your time, and COVID has made it a little bit more difficult to be structured with your time, because whilst the phone's ringing in recruitment, I'm going to pick it up because I don't know when that phone's going to stop ringing, when if we go to another lockdown or whatever it might be, or the economy gets even worse, whatever it might be, while that phone's still ringing, it's difficult not to pick it up. But yeah, you have to be disciplined and just say, right, today is a FiTR day. Today is a modulus day. Tomorrow is, this, or, I'm doing the morning on this and the afternoon on that, or 99% of the time I'm doing FiTR all day, and then in the evening and the weekends, and then, the middle of the night, it's FiTR.
So how does your day-to-day look like? Is it quite structured like it seems it is, or can it be quite ad hoc depending on how the recruitment, for example, business does?
It's very structured, but it's not ad hoc. It gets interrupted, I think is probably the best way to describe it. Like, that structure gets interrupted, and that's the difficult thing to manage.
But how do you manage it when you keep getting interruptions? For example, we talked before, like you're really busy at the moment with the recruitment firm, so imagine that's a lot of interruptions. So how do you deal with that to still keep the fire going and the traction going for FiTR, which also is in increased demand?
Like I said before, I've got a really supportive wife, so if I have to say to her, look, I'm upstairs, I'm working from home now, I'm upstairs, I'm in the office, don't come and disturb me, and she'll be sorting out the kids and stuff like that, and I'll be in there 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and she's like, I'm going to bed now. I'm like, right, okay, see you tomorrow. I'm still tapping away on the computer. That's just how it is. So rather than saying, right, I'm going to finish now, I'm going to spend some time with the kids or whatever it might be, your day just gets extended out, essentially. That's how those interruptions affect the structure. So you just end up working longer days.
So this is going to be a bit of an egotistical question, because I just recently had a kid. I'm still quite...
I know, congratulations again, by the way.
And still fairly new in the wedded life. What would be your kind of top tips or advice? This work-life balance expression, there's no such thing, I don't think, but like, what's the best way to actually manage to still have a really good relationship with the wife, with the kids, and still be able to run a startup?
So I had a piece of advice from a mentor, and he was like, you need to make time for yourself. which is hard because of everything that I've just said in terms of like your days get extended out and stuff like that. But yeah, you do need to make time for yourself and just to like step away from everything because.
So when you say for yourself, is that just you or is that family time?
It can be, yeah. Like, you know, if you want to spend time with your family. Sometimes I don't. I'm like, no,
yes, I do.
I'm gonna go out and play golf today. No, yeah, you've got to make some time, otherwise you burn out and you burn your bridges on all your relationships, whether it's, you know, your friends, your family, or your wife and your kids, or your husband and your kids, or boyfriend or girlfriend. You've got to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's no existence really. Just sitting in a room all day. And
was your wife aware when you first came together that you're quite entrepreneurial?
I don't know. We've been together a long time, so you know, she's seen me go from working in the gym to working in recruitment, going through that recruitment journey, starting up a business, starting up another business. I think the good thing for me is, like I said before, my parents and a lot of my family are all public sector. Her parents had their own businesses, so she's seen what it looks like as a kid and to work in be in a family that have their own business, and you know the sacrifices that have to be made, but also I guess the benefits that come with that as well. So she's definitely seen the highs and the lows of what that looks like. So I think that helps that she's already got some expectations managed of what it's going to be like in that dynamic in the family, for sure.
Yeah, that definitely, I would imagine, help. Because for me, the way kind of I approached it was, you know, in literally the first dates, I was like very clear and open of like, this is the type of person I am, this is what I'm working on.
If you want to go out with me, you've got to understand that.
Yeah, essentially, even when we had a kid, I was quite like, I'm going to be as amazing dad as I can be. I'm not going to sit at home and like watch over them and stuff like that. I'm going to be there for like moments and stuff like that and do my best, but like, this is also my baby, right?
Yeah.
Orfi Active, and then whatever else might come about next as well, because I'm sure I'll always be working on stuff. That's just the kind of personality, right?
Yeah.
So from my perspective, it's this kind of over communication constantly of, you know, what it is what definitely helped, but it's still damn challenging. Yeah. Like so.
Communication is really key. Actually, it's really important, because you know sometimes I am guilty of, and again it's probably because I'm on my own in this journey a lot, and you know I'm guilty of keeping like my thoughts and my feelings to myself a little bit, and then you know the wife will be like, you know, are you okay? You know what's, you know, she could, you know, she just tell. It's very intuitive like that. That's what happens when you've been together for a long time.
This is really interesting to hear from an employee point of view, because I mean I don't have a wife. Yeah. But I could never sacrifice kind of the time with my friends, my family, my free time, whatever, over work. I think from my point of view, when I look, without getting too deep, when I look back on my life, I'll think about the kind of the moments I've had with them and that type of thing. But I suppose being a founder of a company, it's kind of like your metaphorical baby that you're taking care of, kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I don't know, maybe I don't have that founder mindset, because I can never imagine dedicating so much time and sacrificing so much to make that happen.
And yeah, don't get me wrong, like we've had really strong debates, like, you know, good arguments about, when you asked before, you know, why did you decide to carry on with FiTR when the other two had left and stuff like that. And there had been moments in that period where, you know, my wife had said, maybe you should just drop it and just concentrate on Modulus. And I was like, no way, you know, this bit like you said, you know, just so you know, this is also my baby, and you know, this is me, this is what I'm about. So it becomes part of your identity almost, doesn't it? So yeah, definitely, those conversations have happened for sure. It's not been plain sailing where she's like, yeah, you just crack on, love. It's definitely not that. But yeah.
And it's not really
communication.
work per se. I think that's one of the things that I see, whether it's employees or just people that don't run their businesses. One thing that they maybe struggle to understand is the passion side of it.
Yeah.
And that it's not work for us. At least not for me.
No.
Like it's literally a way of life.
Yeah.
I fall asleep thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. You think about it long term. You think about how you manage your team. What I'm going to be speaking about when I come in the morning. Just all these different things. Yeah. And I sometimes feel guilty, right? Because I don't feel like I'm working.
Yeah.
I'm doing all these things. I'm excited. It's cool. And I come back home and then, for example, my wife comes from her job, which is a job, and she's, this stuff happened, they said this and they said this, and I'm like, well, I had an amazing time.
Yeah.
But if I actually said what happened in the day, they were like, that's a fucked up day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is fun. This is fun for me.
This is fun for me, yeah.
And I think this is where it's that type of different. It's you get excited, you get the adrenaline, the rush of both the good things and the bad things. But for me, it's especially the bad things because that's what challenges you.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of want to prove yourself that, I can do this shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like going into like pitches and meetings with potential investors and stuff like that, that had never been something that I'd done before. There's lots of other stuff that, meetings with lawyers and, having, getting all the staff together and having, disciplinary conversations, all those kind of things. Like I've done all of that, when I was a manager in the fitness industry, in recruitment, having my own recruitment business, I've had to have all those sorts of conversations. But challenging yourself and doing something new, it's really cool. And you get the butterflies and you get the adrenaline rush and, sometimes you think, you go in and you're nervous, but you definitely, that's where you grow, isn't it, as a person. And, that's only by having those different experiences are you going to, make yourself a better founder, a better business person, a better role model. So
what's your goal with FiTR? What's the big vision, the big mission going forward?
Definitely to get it out of the UK and international markets. So that's definitely something that's on the medium term roadmap. And long term, there's various options really, but some sort of exit is definitely on the cards. But what that looks and feels like, people say, is it we're going to get a team in and they're going to do a management buyout, or is it going to be an acquisition, or we're going to do an IPO, or any, there's no ultimate exit plan where it's that. I think that's still open.
I'm quite happy that you mentioned exit.
Yeah.
Solely because what I've noticed a lot, it's almost like taboo.
Yeah.
You're like most founders that do startups, they think about it and it's in their head that they're going for an exit, but it feels like they can't say it.
Yeah.
It feels like if they say it, they don't really believe in it, and it's not, it's not their baby, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think that I think it's absolutely fine. Yeah. It's absolutely fine to work towards an exit.
Yeah.
And not wanting to grow it yourself to a multi-billion, hundreds of employees type of business.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of I'm impressed and happy that you're okay talking about that, because I've seen that being said.
And I think that's where the two, when you asked before about, if you're going to go 100% in on FiTR, but you've had Modulus that's been paying the bills and all that kind of stuff, it's a different strategy. It's a different, revenue model for you personally. So I'm, I might not be getting my salary every month from FiTR.
Yeah.
But I know there's a big payday, hopefully, or some sort of payday at the end. and that, you know, that's how I'm going to reap the benefits from FiTR, because that's the direction of travel with it, rather than with Modulus, which is, you know, a very traditional kind of model. So yeah, I think, if you don't think there's going to be some sort of exit, or if you're just, you know, planning on doing it as a lifestyle business, then I think a tech startup as a lifestyle business is probably the wrong type of business to be in. Yeah, it's the wrong type of business to be in. From my point of view, and you know, I could be completely wrong. Someone else might tell me that's what they think is right. But yeah, I think ultimately, you know, you are looking for an exit and, you know, some sort of reward at the end.
Well, I mean, you've got all the fundamentals there to achieve that. I think it's a brilliant platform. The timing's right. I think the need for it is definitely there. So I think what you're doing is absolutely brilliant.
Cheers, mate.
And the way you do it as well is damn impressive, with the family, with the recruitment business, and having this, going through adversity with your co-founders, and now just taking the leap and just sticking with it. It is really inspiring. It's really impressive. And yeah, I just wish you all the best. And hopefully next time we get you on the show, FiTR's going to be fully international and
huge, yeah,
and absolutely massive.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for your time.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.